What's your favorite brand, America?
Welcome to Yankee Stadium and the 79th Major League Baseball All-Star Game. The fourth and final All-Star game to be played at this historic ballpark. On the field are the National and American League All-Stars. And gathering by the left field monuments is one of the greatest collections of Hall of Famers ever assembled. And now, let's meet the best of the senior circuit, the National League All-Stars. First, the coaches. From the Chicago Cubs, Lou Piniella. From the San Diego Padres, Bud Black. And now the players. From the Arizona Diamondbacks, Dan Herron and Brandon Webb. From the Atlanta Braves, Brian McCann. From the Chicago Cubs, Alfonso Soriano. Aramis Ramirez. Kerry Wood. Carlos Zambrano. Ryan Dempster. And Carlos Marmol. From the Cincinnati Reds, Edinson Volquez. From the Colorado Rockies, Aaron Cook. From the Florida Marlins, Dan Uggla. From the Houston Astros, Miguel Tejada. From the Los Angeles Dodgers, Russell Martin. From the Milwaukee Brewers, Corey Hart. From the New York Mets, David Wright. And Billy Wagner. From the Philadelphia Phillies, Brad Lidge. From the Pittsburgh Pirates, Nate McLeod. From the St. Louis Cardinals, Ryan Ludwig. From the San Diego Padres, Adrian Gonzalez. From the San Francisco Giants, Brian Wilson. From the Washington Nationals, Christian Guzman. Thank you, George. And now let's meet the American League All-Star team. The coaches from the Detroit Tigers, Jim Leyland. From the New York Yankees, Joe Girardi. And now the players. From the Baltimore Orioles, George Sherrill. From the Boston Red Sox, J.D. Drew. Jason Varitek. David Ortiz. And Jonathan Papelbon. From the Chicago White Sox, Carlos Quentin and Joe Crede. From the Cleveland Indians, Grady Sizemore. From the Detroit Tigers, Carlos Guillen. From the Kansas City Royals, Joaquin Soria. From the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Joe Saunders. Irvin Santana. And Francisco Rodriguez. From the Minnesota Twins, Justin Morneau and Joe Nathan. From the Oakland Athletics, Justin Duckshire. From the Tampa Bay Rays, Evan Longoria, Scott Kazmir, and Deoner Navarro. From the Texas Rangers, Ian Kinsler and Michael Young. From the Toronto Blue Jays, Roy Halladay. And from the New York Yankees, Mariano Rivera. On this latest of so many unforgettable evenings at Yankee Stadium, we are almost set to meet the 2008 National League and American League starters. But on this spectacular night in the Bronx, your All-Stars receive a unique honor guard as today's best take their positions, they will be joined by the living immortals of Cooperstown. It is only fitting that 49 Hall of Famers congregate tonight at this cathedral of baseball and take center stage at this final All-Star Game celebration in Yankee Stadium. First, as always, we hand the ball to the pitchers. Each one an ace, every one a Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Carlton, Dennis Eckersley, Bob Feller, Raleigh Fingers, Bob Gibson, Ferguson Jenkins, Juan Marichal, Phil Niekro, Jim Palmer, Gaylord Perry, Robin Roberts, Bruce Sutter, Don Sutton, Goose Gossage, and Whitey Ford. And now the starting pitcher for the National League from the Milwaukee Brewers, Ben Sheets. And the starting pitcher for the American League from the Cleveland Indians, Cliff Lee. Now we head around the horn. At first base, a quintet of legends. Orlando Cepeda, Harmon Killebrew, Eddie Murray, Tony Perez, and Willie McCovey. They are joined by tonight's starting first baseman. For the National League, from the Houston Astros, Lance Berkman. And for the American League, from the Boston Red Sox, Kevin Youkilis. We continue and move to second base. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rod Carew. Bill Mazeroski. And Ryne Sandberg. Joining them are tonight's starting second baseman. For the National League, from the Philadelphia Phillies, Chase Utley. And for the American League, from the Boston Red Sox, Dustin Pedroia. Now we head over to the hot corner and some of the game's greatest third basemen. Brooks Robinson. Mike Schmidt. George Brett. And Wade Boggs. They are joined by tonight's starting third baseman for the National League from the Atlanta Braves, Chipper Jones. For the American League from the New York Yankees, Alex Rodriguez. And now to the shortstop position. Home here in Yankee Stadium to the late, great Scooter, Phil Rizzuto. Tonight, we hail these greats. Louis Aparicio. Ozzie Smith. Robin Yount. Ernie Banks. And Cal Ripken Jr. Joining them are tonight's starting shortstops for the National League from the Florida Marlins, Hanley Ramirez. And for the American League, from the New York Yankees, Derek Jeter. Next up, we go out by second base, where he hits so many career doubles. Please welcome Hall of Fame designated hitter Paul Molitor. He is joined by tonight's starting DHs for the National League from the St. Louis Cardinals, Albert Pujols. And for the American League from the Texas Rangers, Milton Bradley. And now we turn our attention to the greats who patrol the outfield. In left, a trio of Hall of Famers. Lou Brock. Billy Williams. And Ralph Kiner. Joining them are tonight's starting left fielders for the National League from the Milwaukee Brewers, Ryan Braun. And for the American League from the Boston Red Sox, Manny Ramirez. Covering that wide swath of acreage in center field, one of the true giants of baseball. Willie Mays. He's joined by tonight's starting center fielders. For the National League, from the Chicago Cubs, Kosuke Fukudome. And for the American League, from the Texas Rangers, a hero last night in the Derby, Josh Hamilton. And now we move to right field and more legends of the outfield. Tony Gwynn. Al Kaline. Frank Robinson. Dave Winfield. Hank Aaron. And Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. Joining them are tonight's starting right fielders. For the National League, from the Colorado Rockies, Matt Holliday. And for the American League, from the Seattle Mariners, Ichiro Suzuki. From the best in the outfield, we turn to the best in the dugout. Behind home plate, please welcome a trio of Hall of Fame managers. Earl Weaver. Tommy Lasorda. And Dick Williams. And representing the best of baseball's front office personnel, they are joined by Hall of Fame executive Lee McPhail. They are joined by tonight's all-star managers. The National League manager from the 2007 National League champion Colorado Rockies, Clint Hurdle. And the American League manager from the 2007 World Series champion Boston Red Sox, Terry Francona. And we stay at home plate to recognize some of the game's great catchers. Please welcome the starting catchers for the National League. From the Chicago Cubs, Giovanni Soto. And for the American League, from the Minnesota Twins, Joe Mauer. Joining them behind home plate tonight, good luck, Joey. A couple of Hall of Fame catchers. Gary Carter. And Yogi Berra. Ladies and gentlemen, this majestic ballpark has provided the backdrop for many great baseball moments. But tonight is a first, even for this grand arena. It is my privilege to present to you here in the house that Ruth built, Yankee Stadium, the greatest collection of baseball's all-stars ever assembled on one field. We take a break on Fox. When we come back, the national anthem. And we continue prior to the 79th All-Star game from Yankee Stadium.